Recording. Great. How are you?
Oh, I thought bearing up, yeah. And yourself?
Yeah, I'm well. So you're at home, working
Yeah,
from
I'm at home. Yeah.
And where's home nowadays?
Home is in Fort William, Highlands, Scotland.
Oh, really? Okay. Have you got? There's no snow up there at the moment.
Look in the hills, yeah, but not much. It's quite nice out at the minute. It's all right. Yeah.
Wow, that's quite a way up north. I've never been, but my ex-brother-in-law loved it up there. He used to go up there mountain biking and stuff. But no, it's a long way. Long way from the Midlands, anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's quiet.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, thanks for agreeing to talk to me today. And let me just get my. Great. So, as I said, the Prosperous musician is helping musicians prosper in the music business. And I noticed that you were. I was looking at your LinkedIn profile. And it says you've been in the music industry since 1979. So I thought, you obviously, you're head of A&R at BMG in Scotland, and so I was expecting to have a Scottish accent for some reason, but I guess you don't have to be Scottish to live there.
No, that's right.
So I thought I'd reach out and talk to you about your experiences and how they can, and what you think about today's music industry. So I'll just start off with, just asking you who you are and how you got into music.
Yeah, well, Chris Adams. I started off as an artist. Well, I'm an artist first, really, and that started way back in the 70s. I mean, I was brought up in a kind of musical family. My dad played the guitar. I played drums first. My first gig when I was 8 years old for my dad's band because they'd forgot something and the drummer had to go and pick something up. So I stepped in and for a while. So that was like the first thing. My stepfather, he played bass with Rick Wakeman. So I used to get taken along to Rick Wakeman's studios to the rehearsals and gigs. All of that mad sort of time when he went solo and had like huge shows with ice dancers and choirs and orchestras and God knows what. It was massive. It was mad. It was like nuts. So I kind of came into the music industry like that. So I was like really, as a young child, I was privy to pretty big sort of artists and rehearsals and all the rest of it. And then when I was 12, I switched to guitar, and wanted to sort of play guitar. I really liked Jimi Hendrix and all that. So I was like, often become Jimi Hendrix every day, And then I guess how I really got in the music industry after that was a kind of a clerical error. Really, that's my story. And it's because I was at secondary school and I was really bad at English and stuff. My art teacher wanted me to go to art college. So I applied to go to art college called Amersham Art College. And they turned me down. So she went in to fight my case and took in some pieces of my art, which was, one of them was a fire extinguisher with a plane flying in the side and all this, and like a sculpture. So they agreed to give me a place on the basis of that, and I had to go and redo English during the holidays. So I went to night school during the holidays to do English, and then when I went on enrollment day, they said I'd have been a mistake and I didn't have a place, So that was that. I walked away, and that was the end of that. And I ended up instead of going to art college, I got a job in a recording studio in the town called the Boiler House. So I went to work there. It was like a job, it was like what do you call it? I can't think what you call it these days. You go and work for nothing, really.
An apprenticeship.
Apprenticeship, intern. Yeah.
And where was this? Which town was this?
So we're in High Wycombe. Yeah. Which is like just west of London.
Yeah.
The Boiler House studio was in a place called Sandown Works, and there was a factory upstairs where they made wall-based guitars. So I used to go see Wall every day, become really good friends, and I met absolutely loads of people through Wall and the studio downstairs. And those people, we're talking like Paul McCartney and Phil Collins and that, and and all the other people that came through that had a Wall bass that he was, Then he used
So
to have the Wall.
you met those people.
So you met those people through Wall, yeah.
Wow.
Back then, and then I ended up doing quite a lot of sessions in the studio down there because I could play bass, drums, keyboards, guitar, could play everything really. And so if there was something needed, I could do it, whatever it was. So I ended up being chucked into different sessions quite often, doing anything that was needed. That went on for a while. Then I went on tour. Then I had several bands I toured with up until about 95. So between, let's see where we're at. Probably in the late 80s, probably like 88 to 95, I guess. I was constantly on tour. That was like hard work, really hard work, because it's sort of always, you're living out of a suitcase all the time. It's not that glamorous. So often you get really dodgy to a hotel room above the boiler room, And
were these your own bands, or were you depping for other artists, or were you like a musician for hire at this point, or were these bands your own bands?
I was a musician for hire really at that time. So the bands were, I thought, all sorts of people. There was like, different, kind of a massive array of different bands, really. So then I think it was 97. I had a break from 95 to 97. I kind of got burnt out at 95. So Dundee's been touring and all that. And I think the never being at home, and staying in hotel rooms, we used to party a lot and all the rest of it. So I wouldn't say the music burnt me out. It was more the partying and that, to be honest. So I had a few years off. And in 97, I decided to go out and try and be like a solo artist, So I kind of launched that, and I gave myself 5 years. Remember at the time, I thought 5 years is a thing. That's what you need to sort of build whatever, if you're doing it all, etc. So I kind of did that.
This was like 97, 98, was it? Or
97.
Yeah. Okay.
So
like middle, sort of coming to the end of Britpop, kind of there, or mid. Was that the height of Britpop or the end of it? I can't remember.
Well, I think what's more significant at the time is that I decided to get it together and do my solo career, or become an artist, just going under my own name, hiring different musicians, putting music, albums out and all the rest of it. 97 was really the year the music industry collapsed, because of what was it called? Napster and file sharing absolutely just, totally devastated the music industry. They didn't, I think that, they knew this stuff was around at the time, but no one took it seriously, and they didn't, there's a really good documentary to see is the documentary about Tower Records, because they really cover it all really well, how they came into being and what happened, and in the 97 collapse of it all, within a year they were in liquidation and shut down, and they had branches all around the world. It had grown from, one thing, and it was their model was people used to come in and look through albums and that, and it works. And the funny, interesting thing was, and is that although they went into liquidation and shut down branches all around the world except for Japan. Japan has still got 76 branches of Tower Records, and that's because the Japanese wouldn't take music for free. It was against their culture. It was a cultural thing, so they continued to buy, and which is why you can go today to Japan and still walk into Tower Records. It really shows a lot. It's definitely a worthwhile thing to see if you want to understand music industry. I think where I am today, I'm still doing my own thing. So I gave myself 5 years in 97. Here we are today. I'm still doing it. I've got a single coming out next week. which was just like an instrumental blues track that I did during lockdown. And it turned out, got a lot of really, made a little video for it, posted it, got a lot of really good feedback, right? So I thought, right, I'll go back in the studio, finish it up, make it polished, and then put it out as a single. Because it's like, why not? It works. If it works, go with it. So that's sort of my artist side of things.
So from like 97 till now, you've been so you were on your own label. Were you putting your own stuff out, and what kind of outfit were you playing in? I'm assuming you were playing a lot live. So what was the setup when you were doing that?
Right, up until, let's see, I was doing some live stuff till about 2006. So I put a band together. At that time I was still living down south, and I met a guy who was a gardener in a place where I lived, and he said he was a bit of a singer and his brother played drums. I was like, yeah, cool, whatever. And then I did some classical drawing room concerts for the people then around the area, because we were living in a place called Ibstone, and where we lived, and my wife cleaned the house there, and I did a bit of gardening for them, and I was off doing the different music stuff and all the rest of it. And they were all really wealthy people, things like that. The guy next door being down the road and down the hill a bit, he used to be the richest man in the world. So they're like really wealthy people. And so John was a gardener. So that's where the band came from, because I did this after this drawing room concert I did for him. John did an a cappella bit of opera for us, and he absolutely burst your eardrums. Right? It was just like, what a vocal! It was so a guy called John Whitbread, amazing vocalist. So we put this band together, and then I got a manager that lived in Arisaig, which is just up the road from here, and he set us up tours in Scotland, and we used to put it all together in a van, and off we went. So for quite a few years we did that, and then I met who's my wife now up here. And then the band sort of fell apart about 2005, something like that. And the manager said, well, when I move up here, we'll put something together, carry on. So I did that. And then I ended up getting together with my wife now. We've got a couple of kids come along. And then I didn't want to be away because I stopped touring then. I stopped gigging altogether, really. My last gig I did was 2015 at Bella Drum Festival, which is somewhat like 20,000 people attending music festival up the road here. That's the last gig I've done. That was the only gig I've done for about 10 years, probably.
What kind of music? What kind of music is it that you do, Chris?
So what I do is
how do you describe it?
It's like Pink Floyd, really.
Yeah,
really. I call it Floydian art rock. So it's just like Pink Floyd, a lot of guitar, like very Gilmore-ish guitar sound. I'm like Pink Floyd, except there's one guy. I play the drums, the bass, the key, do everything now. Mm-hmm. It was slightly different to before when I had the band, because it was a bit more, there was the band and all the rest of it, and really great vocalists, where I've kind of pulled away from that. Most of the stuff I do now is instrumental. Mm-hmm. Really, so it's like the instrumental, and I have quite a nice little niche following of people that are kind of really like Pink Floyd, but they prefer the music part of it, not the vocal. Yeah, so and that gives me, and so I suppose another key thing that happened was that when we had the kids, because Fort William is like 100 miles from Glasgow, so if I want to go do a gig, it's 100 miles to go. It's a 200-mile round trip just to do like the nearest gig, So like if I was when we first got together, I was out gigging a lot, but it means I was never here, because you'd go off and you'd do so many gigs away. You'd be away for a few days because it's so far. So what I did then is I stopped gigging and decided to pull it together and do online, like an online sort of marketing, and really studied online marketing, and found that works. I found I guess I've studied that probably since 97, right? Because once I decided to do my own music, marketing was something we had to learn, and I kind of put it together myself, and I kind of had to learn everything from building websites to, using Photoshop, using video editing software to, working, doing copyright stuff for PRS, having going to have to do the admin at the, that's enough work for one person for a week anyway, just doing the admin at PRS, and MCPS and all the rest of it, because money comes in through publishing, but the money is only going to come in through publishing if you go in and do the work, because it's not a magic wand. There is quite a lot of content ID stuff that goes on, and you can pick stuff up, but really you need to be in there, you need to go and claim what you've done, or you won't get paid. So there's a lot. Really, there's a lot.
How do you do that then? What do you use for that? Is there a kind of an agency, or do you have to do it all yourself? Or
yeah, there's I've got to do some of it myself, and that's just directly with your PRS account. And also I use a company called Centric. They're really good for claiming gigs money, which is not something I do now. So, but they've got me a few TV placements, so I get money for the TV royalties for music on TV through Centric. That was good. They've got so I say my last gig I did 2015. I did Belladrum, and that was like as a band, it was like a good opportunity because it's a big festival. So we didn't get paid, from the festival. You just do it because that's what you do, isn't it? But I did get the PRS money for that. So through Centric, I put the claim in, and that was about 700 quid, which is good for one gig. Now, you wouldn't get that for every gig, but it depends on the audience size. So if a band is out there gigging, doing their own material, if they're not collecting royalties for all these gigs.
Oh, lost you there.
Sorry, my phone just dropped out a bit there. I might have to put it on charge to carry on this. It's really important that bands claim the royalties for the gigs they do, because that's money that if they don't claim it, it just sits in the bank.
And they kind of accrues if they're playing original music in any kind of venue, right? So even if they're playing in like a local pub, they can still register. It will still earn something, right? Even if it's a small venue.
Yeah, that's right. I'm just going if this charger is going to work. Otherwise, we're going to get cut off. It might work. I don't know. I can't tell. Yeah, no, it is. And the way it would work is with Centric is you upload to Centric a playlist of what you're doing, and then that playlist you'd say you've done a gig at so and so, and you use this playlist, and then that venue would put a report in every year to PRS about who played, and what nights. So if your claim matches their report, then you get paid, but for hardly any bands are doing it. So it's a shame.
I remember when I first discovered that, somebody told me about that, and I was, wow, it's like first when I was a kid, realizing that as a kid, I could have the family allowance as my pocket money. It was kind of like a discovery of, I didn't know that happened, but you're absolutely right. And there's a lot of people who don't know that. There's a lot of people who are, as you said, if they're playing decent sized venues and they're playing their own music, they really are just leaving money on the table, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Just let's just take a little sidestep from the music sector. You talk about marketing. I mean, this is a very important part I want to get across as well. As you're an artist yourself, but you kind of alluded to the fact that being creative is only one part of it. If you're not signed to a huge label with a massive budget, then you need to be both. You need to be creative and the business side of it. And as you said yourself, marketing, you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to get anyone listening to your stuff if you can't market yourself properly. Now, so what would you kind of suggest is what's your kind of marketing strategy, and who do you follow now? Because I know there's marketing kind of trends and people that come along and who are more popular than others, and there's big sort of marketing gurus. It's very trendy now to be an entrepreneur and a marketer and do online marketing now, but when you were doing it, it wasn't as much. It wasn't as well known, really. So that's quite a big question, a big meandering question. But so yeah, just tell me a bit about your marketing strategy and who do you sort of follow? Any kind of marketers or kind of any kind of strategies that are out there?
Right, yeah. Mine is really similar. I've like I use Facebook as my main thing, and for my demographic, it works, right? For younger musicians, other indie bands, whatever it may be, Instagram is more the platform. So you got a platform of choice. You neatly do all, but you'd have one platform of choice, and that is like where you invite people to your party. Let's put it like that. And I see a lot of artists recently there's been an upsurge of artists advertising on Facebook, you know, and I see every day I'm seeing maybe 7 or 8 ads. I go and look at them, so they show me more. Facebook shows me more. So anyway, so I'm good. I do see them, but I see, you know, probably 9 times out of 10 they're making the same mistakes, where they're saying like out now, you know, and it'll be a link to their Spotify. They're putting the single out, and there it is, out now. And I say, well, that's like walking into a bar, finding a girl, walk up to her and say, "Would you marry me?" You know, you've got to meet them first. You need to date them. You need to get, you know. So rather than running an out now advert, which would work for, you know, Whitney Houston or someone, you need to like invite them to your party first. So you need to run ads where they would come and discover you. You got to think about a fan discovery journey. How are people going to discover you? If they see an ad out now and they've not heard of you, they're just going to skip past that. It's not going to work. You've got to find another way. So you could use video content, something that stands out. Remember that you're now competing with the thumb sliding down that, you know, timeline or news feed or whatever, and you need to be able to stop them for a minute somehow. So you need something really, and you're competing with a lot of people now. When I started doing this, you know, years ago, there was no one really marketing. Bands weren't marketing on any of these platforms really, you know. Where now they're all doing it, especially in the last year or so, because they're not playing live. So a lot of bands have now taken to putting these ads out and trying their hand at this thing. We've got to do something. They're desperate, you know. So it's become really noisy, you know. It's become a very noisy space. So you got to think, you know, there's a way to do it. I'd run ads. I'd run Facebook likes ads. Say, if I had a new single that I wanted to push, and it was something in particular, I could give. I mean, I did that. Let's see, probably 2 years ago. I think probably 2 years ago. I did a Canon Rock version of Canon Rock. You know, Pachelbel's Canon heavy metal, right? Blah blah. And I call it the ultimate version. There's quite a few out there already that you're competing with. But what I found was that in Indonesia, they really love it. They love this sort of heavy metal guitar, instrumental, yeah, come on thing, you know. So I put the thing together with a marketing strategy in place. It was built around a marketing strategy, really. And that was to hit like people in Indonesia. So I run Facebook ads, but only show people in Indonesia that like Spotify, like heavy metal guitar, you know. And then Indonesia is so cheap to advertise. You know, I'd probably let's see, you know, the results would be something like you'd get you'd be charged by the click, and I'd probably get 1,000 clicks for £1, you know, because it was each click was like 0.0001. You know, so you get like absolutely huge results for very little money. Now, if I ran that ad and showed it to people in California, you'd be lucky to get £1 a click. You know, so that's how it works. So you need to find out where your audiences are, and there's ways of doing it, you know. And that kind of worked. The thing in Indonesia just took off. And then you look at your Spotify to see if the ad's working, don't you? You know, because I just put a simple post there with a link to a really good picture that would appeal to them, with a link to the Spotify track, and that was it. So it's a bit of opposite. I wasn't inviting them to my party, but I was inviting them to just play the track, because it's such a massive, you know, there's 120 million on them, and it costs so little. That works. And within a week or two, Indonesia becomes my most popular destination on Spotify. So you can see it all working. You know, what bands need to do today, though, is to build. Really, you need to. If you had an album coming out in a year's time or something, then you need to start building Facebook likes or followers on Instagram or wherever you are. You have to build that. So you could I'd run a like ad, and you just find, for me, I'd run a like ad to people that like Pink Floyd. You know, that's it. For me, it's easy because my music's so similar to Pink Floyd. So if you're a band, choose the biggest artist that's similar to you, and then you go after their following. That's how you do it. And you build up that. And then by the time your album comes out, if you've picked up 50,000 people, you know, then when you run your ad, you can show it to them 50,000 people and a lookalike audience too. So now you've got someone they've seen you before. You know, it's not cold anymore, is it? You know, and then you kind of you do a I think what people don't understand is what's the most important thing in all this is to use pixel technology so that you can retarget them. Because when your ad shows or when your content shows, you know, like 99 times out of 100, the person that's seeing it are not in the position to do what you want. They're not in a position to sit and listen to your track now. They're just in the supermarket, or they're getting in the car, or that, you know, you're interrupting them at the wrong time. So they need to see it again later on. So you have to retarget them. You can only do that by using the pixel technology. Now that's like when you go on Amazon and you look at a pair of hair straighteners for your wife, and the next time you go on Facebook, boom, there's an advert for hair straighteners. Right? It's pixel technology. And really that's where it's at, because you know, if you run an ad and you don't use pixel technology, the people might see the content once. You're going to get the one person out of 99 that's in the right position to buy it at that time. The rest of them you missed. And you've just left all that money on the table because you got to go back. You know, it's just the problem is it's not as simple as people think. You know, you can't just run an ad. It used to be a lot easier, you know, but it's not. It's a lot harder now, because I think particularly here, you know, in the West, in the UK and America, and that where your market might be, that people are bombarded with information, so much information, they're totally resistant to it, you know. So you really got to pull it out of your bag with everything, you know. And that's why I think the retargeting is really important. And then also you could build, you know, another strategy is a free song for an email, right? And you can set that up. There's loads of different mails. So MailChimp will do that for you, where you can get up to 2,000 subscribers, and it don't cost anything. And it sets up full automation. So you could have you could run an ad where you give away a free track for an email, or two or three free tracks for an email. They sign up to you, and then everything's automated. You know, after as soon as they sign up, they get sent a free track. 2 days later, they get another free track. Another 2 days later, you get another free track. And then each time of that, there's a PS with an offer. So you don't want to be too salesy, you know, just put the offer in as a bit of a, oh, well, we've got a CD if you fancy it. That's the way I'd do it. You know, I wouldn't try and sell straight to people. Just put it in as a sort of an offer. And then at the end of a series of emails, you'd put in an offer of some sort, you know. And by then, you've given them 2 or 3 free tracks. They like what you're doing. They felt they got something worthwhile, you know, from you. So they're more likely to buy them, you know, which that kind of works, really. And people still want CDs is surprising, you know, the amount of people that still want CDs. In fact, you know, so, and you learn that over time, because I remember sort of switching my game over to Spotify a lot. And you get those pages, don't you? You know, when you put a single out, you can get a page that's got a link to Spotify, a link to Apple, a link to, you know, you need to do one of them so they can choose their
link tree, I think it's called, isn't it?
Yeah,
link tree.
Like yeah. So you need all that stuff. But I did that, and I stopped sort of moving the CDs. Yeah, because it can be a bit, you know, a nuisance. So I got quite a lot of albums out. And every now and then someone will come along and buy a CD, you know, and if I've not got them in stock now, I've got to go and sort out getting you know, it can be a blinking nuisance if someone comes along and buys a CD. So I've had sort of and I've run ads before, posts in the past, and every now and then it'd come up and someone would buy it. And I think, where on earth did they see that? You know, and I've got to go and source 3 CDs now and whatever the offer was, you know. So that'll yeah. That's how that's how it works really. The marketing is about sort of getting exposure. Marketing is about finding your brand, selling your culture. Like my particular way, the way I work is that I do instrumental, mostly instrumental music. It's really similar to Pink Floyd. So, and I post probably 3 or 4 times a day on Facebook, and it's just pictures, and I don't say a word. I never say anything.
Mhm.
And every now and then I've posted saying like I'm not very good at. I don't talk a lot. You wouldn't believe that now, would you? I don't talk. I don't talk a lot, but if I want to say anything, I'd say it with my guitar, and then I put a little video of me playing something, right? But so my whole culture is the fact that it's instrumental music, and I don't say anything. So it's really easy to maintain, and that's become my thing. And then from that, so the pictures I share are normally really arty sunsets and moon scenes and night stuff, and perhaps some sort of all touching on Pink Floyd a bit, or sometimes I'll share perhaps pictures of some of my favourite guitar players, And what I do on my posting strategy on that is that probably 9 out of 10 of my posts are not about my music, because I think that's another mistake that artists make, is they just post about the music, one post after another. Got a gig here, we're doing that there. Here's a t-shirt, there's a CD, here's the new track, and I'm just like, come on, man. Think about what inspires you, what makes you tick, and that's the audience. You're going to find people similar to that, and so that becomes your brand, who you are, what makes you tick, and that. So you need to post stuff about that, not about your music. Post about your music every now and then. Most of the time, we post about what it is, whatever the thing is that your culture, really.
So does all this point back to your website, where they can download stuff from your website, or is it just Spotify plays that you're going for?
Yeah, it depends really. You need a bit of it all. I've got different. Like on my website, you could download WAV files of some of the albums, so the higher quality downloads. So sometimes I'll market that. I'll send people to that. Other times it'll be the Spotify playlists. I create playlists. Playlists are quite a good way to go. So rather than one track, one of the things I did is I created a playlist on Spotify that had Pink Floyd tracks on it, and then in between dotted the third track down on the playlist was one of mine. And then the 7th track down was one of mine. And then I advertised that playlist to Mexico, Pink Floyd fans in Mexico. There are thousands of plays, But you kind of it's not illegal. It's like touching, almost. But you're kind of promoting yourself amongst a much bigger band, and it kind of works. And you'll put followers out of that, So that's a good way to go. But I think that you need a little bit of everything. I wouldn't rely totally on Spotify or the digital, because that's it's not a huge earner. A lot of the times, if you're advertising in the UK or in America, you won't get your budget back. You won't, it will cost you more to advertise than you'll earn. If you're thinking that it's like you get paid 1/4 of a penny per play, and you're paying a penny a play, you're losing money already, aren't you? So you've got to think, unless they play it more than once, right? So, like I was saying, with Indonesia, that thing works because it costs so little to get per click. It was costing 0.001 per click, and then there's a play on Spotify, and that would pay 0.03457642, whatever it is, right? So you're actually making money on each play.
So how did you find out about that? How did you find out that your kind of music would go down well in Indonesia? Was that something?
Just research. Yeah,
okay,
you have to research. One of the things a few years ago, one of the things that started that was that I've learned that Mexico was the highest growth country on Spotify outside US and UK, and that Mexico City is like the streaming capital of the world. To find that out, and so then you can advertise to Mexicans at like an absolute fraction of the cost to Americans. So and you these are places where you can create fan bases, individual, why not? And so if it works, so and Indonesia, that was another one where I just I don't know, I'm not sure how I came across that. I just recent another country is Japan, and they really love all that heavy metal stuff and all that. But Japan's not so easy to get into. There's they don't really listen to Spotify. They use there's some other apps they use in Japan and that. And so it's a slightly different market. Same as China, right? Massive market, but it's not Spotify really. There's other apps that they use. And there's different distributors that you'd use in Asia than you might use for the West. So it becomes really complicated. And then you get lost in the mix of it. So I think what you actually need is a strategy. So, if you're going to do that, you need it. It needs to be part of a strategy and planning, really important to plan.
You mentioned albums, hypothetically, if you had an album to follow a certain strategy. Now, do you think albums are still relevant, or does it just apply to what genre you're in?
Yeah, I think it does. It depends on who you are, and what you're doing. The Spotify model and the sort of streaming model, you want to go for singles, don't you? So that you put tracks out over a period of time, rather than one album and that's it, boom. You're putting singles out, so you keep coming up and they keep getting notifications and you keep the thing moving, right? So that's the sort of a strategy for digital. But if your art is that it requires an album, really, because it's for you to be honest to yourself, and if you're a progressive rock band, and you're similar to Yes or something, then putting out singles that's not your thing, is it? It's not going to work. Because it goes against what you are then. So you need to be true to yourself, and some of mine I've been put out as albums because you want to sit and listen to the whole thing. And then I'd advertise it as that. I'd run an ad and I'd have part of a track playing and there's some really good visuals, and the text would say something like, if you like Pink Floyd, if you've got time to listen to an album, and if you're a free thinker, like, this might be for you. And that's it. And then people were, but you drop in the name, isn't it? So people got to think, well, I've got to listen to that now. And it works. Same sort of things worked. So this year I'm doing quite a lot of singles. Last year I did nothing. The year before that I put an album out called Angels Share, and that was an album. So I didn't used to really do the Spotify strategy. It's more sort of what I'm doing now. For my own, because I think I had a bit of a year off last year. With all the lockdowns and all that stuff, and I thought I couldn't be bothered really, and I want, it was quite nice to have time off. Although I did do the other stuff, the A&R that I do for AMG and all the rest of it, which is another thing. So which is like, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, how did you get into that? I mean, that's like one life. We've talked about your life as an artist, and you've got some great tips there, contemporary sort of strategies for musicians to follow nowadays. But so, how did that transition? When did you start to make the journey into the industry as on the other side of the fence, if you like, being and ended up being sort of head of A&R?
That was like invite. It was a converse. It was a friend, really. A friend put me forward. So I made we were having a conversation one day, and I just said, "Why don't you just get?" He'd got a job with AMG doing head of European acquisitions, and all that. And I said, "Well, yeah, that's really good." And but this guy is a friend of mine. He's worked like in the music on that side of the music industry for as long as I have, really, but maybe a bit longer, and works with really big people, like down at Air Studios and all that, and George Martin and all them. So, so I said to him one day, "Why don't you get this job at AMG?" Just as a sort of a bit of a joke statement. And then a week later, he says, "You want the good news or the bad news?" And I said, and he said, "I got your job." So he took me on his team, really. That's how I worked there, and that's how a lot of people get in. I mean, how Mark started that. So AMG is Mark S. Berry. He's like a producer, produced Dave Bowie and all that, and some massive hits. And he got in the industry because he worked at Air Studios too, but he didn't work. He walked in there one day off the street and he started like emptying the ashtray, making them coffee, and that's how he got in. And that's how a lot of people get in to the industry. You go in somewhere, you show your interest, you know, and you got to sweep up. You know, you have to do the bit, and then you sit and learn, you know, and opportunities may come. But it's having the front to walk in there and do it and be prepared to make everyone coffee and empty the ashtrays, you know, and all that. And that's really what a lot of us did, sort of get through. That's like me when I thought that, you know, when the art college thing fell through and ended up going and working in the studio and doing for nothing really, and all the rest of it, same thing. And you learn your trade like that. So, and we talk a lot. It's funny because I've talked to quite a few music industry colleagues about people. There's a lot of younger people these days that are going and doing a degree in what they call it, applied music industry, or you know, this and it. And we're like, what is that? If someone come along for an interview, you know, to do for a job in A&R, and they said, well, I've got a degree in applied music and that, we'd be like, well yeah, what's that? You know? It's really different. It's a different thing, isn't it? Because none of us did that, you know, and it was more about just you went out and did the job. So I got into that through knowing someone, really, and by accident, and then that's like it's another thing. And I've been working with AMG. That's like you know, A&R has changed so much over the years because the way the industry is now, and that there's no sort of proven way to get in, you know, and for artists, that is. If you're approaching A&R, a lot of major labels, if you go to the websites and that and you want to submit to them, you can't. There's no way to do it. And they'll have a thing saying, we do not accept unsolicited, you know, demos. So it's almost impossible. How do people get in there? You know, but the A&R for bigger labels are out still looking for people. A lot of in the industry today, they say A&R is dead. You know, artists and repertoire, and it's not, but it is sort of. It's not the same thing as what it used to be, you know. And what I do now is more probably PR salesman is probably a better description of what I do rather than A&R. Although it is artist and repertoire, you're looking for artists that have got everything that you need, which is pretty rare, and also willing to. Quite often, you know, they need to be willing to invest. And then the way the model would work is that they would pay for a PR campaign on a single or something. Then they'd come through AMG. AMG would do PR for that and send it out to different labels and the rest of it. And then people will watch. Then they're going to be watched, you know, and the proof would be in like how the public respond, you know. And that's quite similar. It's not that dissimilar to Simon Cowell's AR. Really, he was an A&R man, you know, and he couldn't spot a hit if it was hopeless. He was a hopeless A&R man. He didn't have a clue what was a hit and what wasn't. But from his weakness, he created a business strategy that worked, and that's like let the audience decide, you know, and that kind of works. And that's what not really that far off from what we do. Is that an artist would come along and they've got, you know, it's like they really believe in themselves. They're there, they've got some money to spend on some PR, so that would happen. And then if the public respond well to that, then they're going to get noticed. They're going to get noticed because all of a sudden they got 1 million. They put a single out, and within 3 or 4 days, it's 1 million streams, right? So that rings bells. Bells go off. You know, there's a lot of A&R that sit and watch. There's software programs that watch the internet, and they tell you, they'll alert you if something is trending. If someone posts something on Facebook and they get 500,000 comments for some reason, it would come up. You know, so they use software that kind of looks, it sits and watches the web, doesn't it, like this, and there's a spike on something, boom, they go and look, what's that?
And what is that called? Or
there's one site that anyone could access is called Next. I think it's called Next Big Thing. might be nextbigthing.com or something, and you can put in you can put artists in, it will show you where they're at, what's going on, and you can put yourself in as an artist and watch yourself where you're at. And when I do that, I watch that quite a lot for different things, and every now and then I come up myself, I'll get an email that this artist is trending on so and so at the minute or whatever, and so it's me. and I was like, oh yeah, and it's So really,
people are really still the thing now. Then, so people will be paying for their own stuff. So you get to a certain level, you pay for your own PR, and then, like you say, if you do get a hit, you do get a spike, and then if you working for AMG, you would be then saying, okay, we're interested in taking it further. Well, maybe you'd pay for an album for them, or pay for some more recording, or is that the case? And
well, it would be, like, well, we've got, at the minute, working with someone who put, I met, like, probably a year ago, I guess, probably about a year or so ago, and I found him on LinkedIn. He found me, really, and I went and had a listen, and I thought, oh, no, it's really good. It says Boy in Belarus. So his single's coming out tomorrow, and it's got a really good video that goes with it, so this stuff's been done. It's been distributed. The distribution was done through AMG, but Sony, so distributed via Sony all around for everywhere. And then we'll find him other deals, but some of that will be done through Mark's relationship with other people. So he's going to get a distribution deal in China and Asia, a lot of Asian territories out of this, which is something that he's going to sign today. Then the other thing, there was a guy, Arista Records, who was someone that Mark worked with for 40 odd years, and so we've sort of sent it to him, and he said, oh yeah, so they're watching now, see what happens with this guy, because it's very good. The only thing is Belarus, so there's like that. That's I can't see it being an issue, but it would be something going against him a little bit, but I can't see why it shouldn't work out, really. So people have a different way in, like one other way in. What we used to do, for A&R, to find artists, we had what do you call it? Like I can't remember what you call it now. It's like a competition thing.
Battle of the Bands.
Yeah, sort of thing. But it was a monthly thing, so bands would send stuff
showcase,
in, and then we'd have a load of judges, and then we'd have a number 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
No, I can't remember what that was called now. So it's New Scottish Music Chart. That's what we called it. Well, it's not Scottish. It sounds like Scottish music, but anyway, New Scottish Music Chart. That's what we did, and that was like my mate's sort of brainchild, really. And that was, from running that, thousands of bands would send stuff in. So it's a good way to find people. That's how we found what's his name, Lewis Capaldi. He came through that process, and he was like a really good example of how everyone's unique, and it's a unique journey for everyone. Not everyone's the same. Like we're saying, a lot of labels would want to see big figures, right? Big, like if you've got 1 million or so streams on Spotify, they're more likely to sign you than if you got nothing. But Lewis Capaldi wasn't the case. He had nothing. He had 3 original songs. He couldn't be asked getting out of bed, and he had nothing, really nothing. And but someone saw that, thought that the quality of the voice, the passion there, boom, and so he got signed that way. There's a different route, depends where you're at, who you are. But if you really believe in yourself, then the way is to get them figures up,
So would you say what's the kind of everything else being, if an artist, they look good, they've got good songs, they've got some good videos, that kind of stuff. What's the kind of figures that they need to get your interest? What would you like? What's kind of like the minimum they would need, or is there a minimum?
Yeah, well, it's not really a minimum, but you'd want to see growth. So for myself, I want, and like Facebook Insights is a good one to use, but it depends on who it is, because like they could be growing on Instagram, not Facebook. You know what I mean? But That's something I do. You can add any band to your insights and I can watch them. And if I'm looking at another label or something, I'll go and watch their bands, you know, and I'll add them to my insights, and you'll see each week what gives you. Now, you need to do it on a computer, not on a phone. It doesn't give you all the facilities on a phone, but on a desktop, you can go into Facebook Insights and it'll show you like their, what do you call it? What do they call that? Engagement. Yeah, engagement level over the last 7 days or whatever time period you put in, and then you can see, you know, and it's incredible the amount of bands that I see and I follow, and they've got absolutely nothing, zero engagement. So you want to see engagement. When someone puts a single out, you want to see engagement with people talking about it, you know, and see that it's. But the thing is, that's sometimes you can get an amazing song, but they haven't got a clue how to market it, so the song just falls flat. That's another thing that can happen. People, but an artist puts a song out, they don't know how to market it. The song sort of falls flat, and then they blame the song, you know. And they're thinking there's something wrong, or maybe we need to change what we're doing and all the rest of it. But really, it was just down to the marketing, you know. And that's about just building things over time and keeping it going. You know, that's the other thing. You have to be consistent. It's so important. Consistency. You could be really into it for a couple of months and build a following and get sort of a couple of thousand new likes and people following you and all that, and then you lose interest for a couple of weeks and it all drops off. Then you go back on. You don't get it back, but it takes a time. It won't come straight. We can't suddenly post in there. It all is again. It will be gone. You know. So consistency, really important. You know, really, that's it.
So what would you say, are there any
I've lost your set, I can't hear you.
somebody's just trying to call me. What would you say there are kind of any underrated artists out there, like the ones like you say that people get good music but the marketing isn't great, but they're actually as artists they're really good?
Oh, I don't know really. Don't know. I'm sure.
Who was the last artist that you worked with or had involvement with as an artist?
Well, I don't know. Not sure. There's probably an awful lot. I think there's right now there's a lot. There's a lot of artists that are really good, and they're not getting what they should, and that's probably because they still don't understanding how it all kind of works and trying to understand how people might discover them or what the journey is. A lot of artists still believe in this sort of one day you're busking and the next day you're playing in Wembley Stadium, right? You know, and this sort of fantasy thing, which is like something in the music industry, like they like to, it's like magic, right? It's a magic thing, and the music industry like to promote that idea, although it's not reality. It's never been reality for anyone, you know, or even the ones that it might seem to have been reality. That person still had to go and buy a guitar and learn to play and spend half their life doing it and practicing 5 hours a day, and you know the story, right? So there's tons of, I think, well, for me there's a couple of artists at the minute that I think are probably really they're not discovered and they should be, and one of them is a guy called Willow Robinson. Right, he's just like absolutely fantastic singer from Bristol, I believe, or down that way. Might be in LA. He was signed as well, but he had a management deal with Alan. What's his name? McGee. You know, Oasis and all that. Alan McGee. He had a management deal with him, but the industry's changed and not sure what's happening there. He's not being as successful as he should be. So Willow Robinson, definitely. There's other bands that are up and coming. We'll see where they go. There's a band called Haunt the Woods at the minute. They're not really getting any, you know, exposure. Not any sort of exposure that they should be getting. Really good band. So, but it will always be the case, you know. And I think a lot of a lot of it is about being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah. So what's your have you got any I'm sure you must have some anecdotes about your music industry. Have you got any sort of funny stories that you might have happened to you along the way?
Probably. There's probably quite a few, but yeah. I mean, some of the bands, one of the bands I used to tour with, me and the drummer used to do this sort of, the Pink Panther, where the bloke jumps out on you, the Pink Panther films, where he used to, yeah, we used to do that. We were carrying something out to the back of the van, and he'd be in there and he'd jump out and attack you. But we were quite violent. So it was mental, yeah. Some of that, we used to do that. Yeah, all sorts of stuff. Yeah. There's probably thousands, but I can't really think just now,
Of course, it usually comes out in a different situation, isn't it? You're having a few drinks down the pub when you're allowed to. The stories come out. So, Chris, it's been great to hear from you, hear from your both sides, actually, being an artist and also from the other side as well. So, what could you have you got any pearls of wisdom that you could leave us with in terms of to anyone out there who's a new artist, or maybe an old artist who's just trying to get more plays, or make more money, or get more visibility? What would you say to them?
Yeah, just like believing in yourself is important, and don't be nice. I think that's the one. I think the biggest thing is just to be nice to everyone, because you never know when that situation will come back round, etc., etc. It's amazing the amount of people that go blow it because of their ego or whatever. I remember like talking to the girl that does the promotions and some of the booking for Belladrum festivals. You've got 20,000 people go to this festival. It's a gig worth doing, right? But they also, the girl that runs some of that does there's a venue called Ironworks in Inverness, and she did some of the management there. And they have bands that come in and they're just like, I remember seeing there was some band that came in and there was a changing room out the back, and where everyone had signed, you got Calvin Harris and you got blah, blah, and you got this and this. And some band had wrote all over everyone, massive writing, I thought, well, that's it. They're never going to get another gig again. And they had, and they got absolutely no chance of getting on a Belladrum now. You know what I mean? So they're ego, they're full of it, and they weren't very nice, and that's that ruined their career. That's the end of it. They ain't going to get on a Belladrum. They won't get a gig there again. You know what I mean? So you got to think, be nice. I remember doing gigs, and I've always befriend the sound engineer. Right? If you do a festival gig, and you can befriend, take the sound engineer a cup of coffee, and all that before you set, and have a little chat, be friends, just be nice to people, right? Because then he'll do a good job for you. If you go in there and say to the sound engineer, hey, we're so-and-so, and we want you to do this, that, and that, and we're like the biggest thing, and we're going to be this and this. When you go on, he's going to sit back, drink his coffee, and ignore you. You'll have a shit mix. It's just not going to work. So be nice. That's it.
Great. Well, that's a great way to finish, I think. And but it's certainly been nice chatting to you, Chris. And thanks for your time, and thanks for all your wisdom. And I wish you all the best with your music projects and everything that you do with AGM. Yeah, that's right. I think I was calling it BGM earlier, or BM. Is it AGM?
AGM, yeah.
AGM, right? Okay, great. So thanks a lot, mate. And I'll be looking forward to. I'll check your music out, and maybe be in touch again in the future.
Yeah. Okay. Cheers. Thanks a lot.
Nice one.
Bye.
Take care, mate. Bye.